The mind is a tool, and it's an amazing tool. And I think really what this is about, and what BU is about, is finding the balance of using the mind for what it's good for, which is to plan, to organize, to analyze. It's an amazing tool for developing skills and memory. And so it's great for those things, but it's not so great for other things. One of the greatest things it struggles with is the unknown, which is life. So, the mind's tendency to want to fill in the blanks and project into the unknown, and that's why it takes us out of the present moment all the time. It's always looking for the next unknown moment. Even when we're in the shower, we can't enjoy the water coming down on our heads. The mind is drifting to the next unknown moment and trying to project something into it, even if it has to make it up completely. So there's this discomfort that the mind has with the unknown because it's designed to know things. That's what it does. So if we live by that, we're always trying to achieve certain outcomes, and all of it is just projection and never really experiencing ourselves right now. And so it's really about learning, using the mind for what it's good for, and not using it for what it's not designed to do. So what happens when we come out of that mind? Well, I can explain it. Everyone can experience it. And there's different ways to go about it as well. But essentially, when and I call this thought awareness, when we become aware of thoughts, there's simple exercises that can help one experience this. Then we disidentify with those thoughts. So clearly, to your previous question, we're not our thoughts. If we can become aware of a thought, which happens at that moment whenever we drift off into thoughts and we get lost in thought. And there comes a moment where we become aware that we just drifted off. And that's a moment of disidentification. We're no longer the thought, so that we don't get lost in it so often, if at all, and then learn to not be a slave to our thoughts, but to actually be able to experience them, observe them, but not believe every thought that pops up and let it take us away. And that really, it points us back once we come out of our strong identification with thoughts. We realize we don't actually live in our heads. It's like I mentioned, it's a tool to navigate certain situations, but really we live in our body, which is, it's not a woo-woo statement. This is our presence, is our essence of being, is being in our body. And that's where the wisdom lies. And that's where the trust and the comfort and a deeper knowing that isn't a mental construct, that doesn't need others to agree with you. It's your own truth that comes from within, that doesn't require comparison or outcomes and all that. And so that's where trust, that's where permanent joy, permanent happiness comes from. There is an unbelievable love for creation that is behind everything that exists. There's a joy that is inherent to everything that exists because that's what was required to go into it. Even as humans, we create things ideally out of joy, with the intent to put something, to give life to something. There's an incredible deep joy for everything that exists, that goes into it, into its creation. We can, not just tap into that, but become it when we remove our thoughts, the ones that get in the way, not the useful, practical ones, but the ones that make us think we've got it figured out. We're trying to steer towards a desired outcome. That's the stuff that disconnects us from connecting with that unbelievable love that is at the root of our very existence. So one of the unintended consequences of really being in your body and being in the flow of life is that the largely mental constructs of time, of past and future, fade into the background. They're still there for the basic physicality of our existence and for practical and organizational matters. But this idea that there's a beginning and an end starts to fade away. And so you experience yourself when you are being you and you're being authentic and you're living in that alignment with your inner voice. You start to experience yourself as continuous. The fears of a beginning and an end and what's after, all of this just falls away. It's not about explaining it away. It's just not part of your experience any longer. So in this continuity, you just recognize yourself as infinite. And most important, you're okay with living with the unknown. I don't know what happens after the body. it's okay to be in a state of not knowing.